Borderlands 4 has 4 different characters you can play with a bunch of different build styles. But in this video, I want to show off my Amon Minion leveling build. What we'll be doing with this build is really using these skills right here, the Forgedrone skills, this one, and this one, to basically have a bunch of minions across the battlefield as we use both, well, not both, but all 3 of our forge skills, our action skill, and our ordnance. So what we'll be doing too is using all these things to then allow us to do more damage with our ordnance or do more damage with elements, a bunch of fun things. It's a very chaotic playstyle that I'm really enjoying. So this is the entire build that I will be running. This is your too long didn't watch in my typical fashion on my channel. I'll also be providing you a link to this Mobalytics website. I'm using Mobalytics for this, which will show you how I've broken down everything, what the choices were, other augments and capstones that you can take. So if you don't want to watch this entire video and you just want to have this link, you'll find that in the description and the pinned comment. So that's a too long didn't watch this entire thing. If that's all you want to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. But before you do head out, if you did enjoy this video or you did learn something, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. Also, you can find a link to this thing below, as well as some other builds that I've run. Jumping on over to Mobalytics, it's a partner of mine, and it does help me out in the back end. You can jump ahead to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters about the timeline in the description. Like, for example, next is the gameplay of this build. So if you want to see what this is like, just hang a little bit tighter and you can see that. But let's get started here on my Amon Minion leveling build in Borderlands 4. So the way that this build is going to work, and I'm going to break down each and every item of this and how this works, but just to show you the raw gameplay of this build. Basically, we use our we use our forge skill. We're going to use our action skill, and then we are going to use our ordnance. Now, the ordnance slot, we know that's going to be a grenade, it could be a rocket launcher, the Gatling gun, whatever you have in your ordnance slot. Using each one of these is then going to summon up a pair of forge axes for your forge skill, a forge sword when you use your action skill, and then a forge hammer when you use your ordnance. And what happens is those things are just going to run around the battlefield and do tons of damage for us. They get more and more damage as we scale our ordnance with the hammer, so that's the one we're going to focus on. But what I like about this build is it allows me to pretty much just play however I want, because I can focus on using my action skill, I can focus on using whatever weapons I want without having to really worry about it. I will say the only downfall of this build is that our action skill does draw in both shock damage and fire. So we have access to 2 of the more critical elements, but we don't have access to any way to deal reliable damage to armor. So you need to have a corrosive weapon on tap that you can lodge yourself into, that you can jump into to do damage to armor. To be fair, you're probably going to burst through the majority of things anyway, so you don't really need to worry about it as you're leveling. It's the end game that you're really going to need to worry about that. But I've been loving this build. It's not pure damage by pressing a button and deleting things. You'll be using a lot of abilities, and you can see this is a very fast-paced, fun, active build. I'm not doing a ton of melee damage, which does detonate things. I'm not doing a ton of forge wave damage like you do with the Scourge line, but it is a ton of fun to do a lot of really great things with this and just constantly keep these things active. And I'm going to show you how we're going to keep that stuff active by going through the build. But this is the gameplay for it. Hopefully this looks appealing to you, because when I jumped into Amon, I was like, man, I'm having fun. This is cool, but maybe I'm going to play Rafa, or maybe I go with Vex. Then I saw the ability to do these Forgedrones. And when I saw that, I was like, I want to see how that plays. And it ended up being a lot more gratifying than I thought it would. I thought initially when I went down this, I was like, this is going to be kind of a shitty build. I'm pretty sure of it. But once I really got these things, all 3 of them active, because you won't get them all active until level 18. That's worth noting too. Level 18 is when you'll have all 3 active. And that is when the build really kind of starts to ramp up in power, because remember, these things are an extension of you. So if you are down on a second wind, they'll kill something for you and bring you back up. And at the same time, they basically will tank stuff for you or jump around and do things. The AI can be a little wonky. Like if you're fighting a boss, sometimes they'll go and fight some of the random items, the random monsters around the field, but that's okay. They'll come back to the boss because those things are really easy to kill anyway. But if you want to play a minion build that is focusing on Amon and using Amon's abilities, this is definitely going to be the one for you because you'll be able to deal with any situation easily. So we've talked about the build, we've shown off the build. Let's now build the build from level 1 all the way up to level 50. And you can see the progression points, and I'm going to explain why we've chosen specific passives over others and what have you. So first things first, on Mobalytics, we're going to go ahead and just choose our action skill. It's going to be Crucible. And right immediately, the first 5 levels, we're going to put into Cast Iron. Cast Iron here is going to gain increased Forge skill cooldown rate and gun handling. When I show you how the quote-unquote rotation of this works, you'll understand why you want to keep Forge skill up as much as possible. It's our first summon, and this is chunky to read, but Forge skill for this case is the double edge, where we throw both of our weapons. And before we actually jump further, let's take a look over here at Crucible. So this is a charge skill. We ready a Forge Axe that can be thrown and picked up off the ground to refund cooldown. That's an important part. So if you miss your Forge Axe throws, pick them up. You can throw a Flame Axe or a Frost Axe. This eventually becomes better because having a Frost Axe, while nice, we want that Lightning Axe, but enemies damaged by them are primed for a duration and will detonate when they die or are damaged by a Forge skill. So basically, the actual rotation, which I show this off, you'll see that we want to hit them with Crucible first, then throw our double edge from the Forge skill to blow up, to detonate that prime. And you can see that Forge Axe status effect damage is 48 per second. So detonation damage is 923 per prime stack. And that is how we're going to do a lot of damage. We're going to be able to use Crucible a lot. But from those two things, we want to pull more out of it. So the first things first here, after level, the next set of abilities, we're going to get Tempered Pyre. This is our first summon, our first minion. This is a Forgedrone skill. Whenever Amon activates his Forge skill, he spawns an Axe Forgedrone that attacks nearby enemies for a duration, dealing incendiary damage. Activating a Forge skill while Tempered Pyre is active fully restores the duration of all active Forge drones. You can see that once we level this thing up to its max level, the damage is 165. So these will last for 20 seconds, but just jumping back into using our Forge skill will reset these. And once we get further, we'll get even more resets. But we're going to jump 5 points into this. But we now have unlocked our very first augments. Remember, augments unlock the second you put 5 points into the top tree here. So we have a choice between Axe and Stone and Endless War. Endless War should be the one that you would want, but the game does not summon up additional Forge Axes outside of this ability. So you lose the capability to do it. You could technically free up points by not spending them on this and spend them over here instead. But I like that this always keeps axes active. This requires you to detonate. If Amon detonates a primed enemy, a new Forge Axe is spawned that seeks out a nearby enemy. So the only way to get this is if you don't have these. So I'd much rather get 2 axes than just 1. So that's why we're going to go with Axe and Stone. So Amon gains increased movement speed for a duration after damaging an enemy with a Forge Axe, any Forge Axe, and can detonate primed enemies with a melee attack. Detonating a Flame Axe restores action skill cooldown. So this allows us to detonate using our Forge skill and bring back more action skill cooldown. So it's really nice. Also, detonating a Cryo Axe restores ordnance cooldown, which is fine, but we're not really going to worry about that. Now we have points to spend. We're going to put it into Twin Tempers. So now that rather than just getting 1 axe, we're now going to get 2 axes every time we use our Forge skill. Then we're going to put 4 points here into Destruction Engine. This is making it so Forge skill will do more damage and Detonate will also do more damage. 2 things that we're relying on heavily for our build. Now that we have the prerequisite 10 points up here or 15 points up here, what is it? 5, 10, 15. Yeah, 15 points up here. We now have all 3 of these augments unlocked. Searing Cold doesn't play into how we're playing this build, so I would ignore it entirely. Now, Hour of the Hammer is nice. It's not bad. It does Frost and Shock, though. I like Shock. I'm not a big fan of Frost in this situation because I want to get that flame damage. This way, I've just got 2 critical elements done. It's worth noting, though, that for this one, you have a much bigger it's got a much bigger blast radius. So basically you choose. I want you guys to make the decision. I'll always with my guides, this is not Creed. This should be a way that you want to approach the game. maybe choose different things for this and go, cool, I really like where he went here, but I'm going to completely diverge and go a different direction. By all means, please, I encourage it. So if you want more splash damage, go with Hour of the Hammer. But we're going to go with, not that, we're going to go now with this guy, Blade Tempest. So now I ready Forge Swords, choosing Flame or Shock. And now, rather than launching one, I launch a barrage of all three. So the charges will use everything, and it just dumps them, and it does a ton of damage. So this will completely eat someone's shields. It will almost delete anything with red health. It's really fun. And by the way we're doing everything, we're going to constantly be having these active. So we're level 15 or so, or probably 16, because I think you get your first point level 2. Level 16 or so, this is where we're going to split. We're going to put 1 point level 17 here into Tempered Lightning. So now whenever we use an action skill, which is Crucible, we are going to get a Forge Sword spawned for us that will do shock damage. And an important part of this says, activating an action skill while Tempered Lightning is active will partially restore the duration of all active Forgedrones. So using action skills will restore our duration of our Forgedrones, and using a Forge skill will restore the duration entirely of our Forgedrones. Lastly, we put 1 point here into Tempered Ice. From this point on, the build is now quote unquote online. Because now whenever we use an ordnance, we spawn a Hammer Forgedrone. This Forgedrone does the most damage of all the Forgedrones. You can see that at max it does 220, this does 125, and this does 165. So this also does ordnance damage eventually. So we are going to work on scaling our ordnance damage from this point forward in the build. So we've done all these things. From this point down, we're going to go back to this center branch because we want to unlock Storm Surge. So we're going to put more points here until we've unlocked Storm Surge. That's our capstone. The site bugs out. These are constantly going to pop off. Just don't worry about it. Then we're going to put 3 points here. You could stop and put the 3 points here later, but this allows it so that now our Forgedrones can critically hit. Whenever a Forgedrone critically hits, they partially restore your action skill cooldown. Keeping our action skill active is nice, but also escalation here. Now all of our Forgedrones have increased attack and movement speed. Let's jump back over to this branch. We're going to increase this bad boy, get its damage up, and then we're going to do masterwork. So now all of our Forgedrones damage and duration is increased. Huge. And lastly, we're going to put 1 point here. So now that, remember how I said the Hammer Forgedrone does ordnance damage? It does once you do this. So Hammer Forgedrones now deal ordnance damage in addition to their other damage types and gain a chance to cause a detonation on damaging enemies, dealing crowd damage in an area. Boom. So that is the base of the build. We have 39 points invested. There's 10 kind of wild card points you can invest however you want. I'm going to show you how I invest them. I'm going to give you some of their options you can take if you'd like. The first one here is Cacophony. Amon gains increased ordnance damage and detonation radius. This plays into this one, but also this does more ordnance damage, so we take advantage of it. You can do something like this, Endless Bombardment, where grenades have a chance to refund themselves. Heavy Ordnance has a chance to refund 1 ammo on damaging enemies, so it keeps up your ordnance. This is really a good one. I haven't tested it enough, though, to really recommend it. I did want to give it a call out, though. So we put 5 points there, and I like another 5 points into this. It's a kill skill, so whenever I deal Amon deals increased elemental damage for a duration, and this stacks up to 3 stacks, so 30% extra elemental damage. So now, anytime I use my action or forge skill, I am slicing and dicing. And the Storm Surge, which I didn't talk about, unfortunately, because my brain is not smart, double edges now. Storm Surge, press and hold your action skill to throw a twinned Forge Blade, dealing shock melee damage in an area on impact. Storm Surge creates a Forge Storm on impact for a duration, dealing shock status effect damage over time. So this just gives us really reliable shock damage. And since I am not personally scaling the damage, this would be a time that you can swap off of Blade Tempest if you want to go to Hour of the Hammer to now have fire, frost, and shock all covered by your action skill and your forge skill. So those are your options. So this is my build as you saw at the beginning of the video. If you want just some different things though, you can pop off this and take off this and go into Scourge line and get effectively the same thing of Scorched Kairos, which gives us the increased ordnance damage that we had before. Same thing, but this just gives us detonation radius, which I actually like a little bit more. But the main reason I'm going to Scourge Tree is to get scar tissue. Amon gains increased health capacity and rep kit healing. So if you're having a problem with healing in the game, you could jump over to here. It's going to give you 40% additional max health. That is a significant increase. But those are some other wildcard choices you can go with. Tail of the Comet too, if you want to really lean into some cryo stuff. But there's a lot. I mean, you could even do stuff into shock if you wanted, by really doing down here into increased shock damage. There's a lot of things you can do with these 10 points to flex in the directions you want. I didn't take this. Whenever Amon or his Forgedrones critically hit an enemy or cause a detonation, he gains increased damage dealt for a duration. I haven't played with this enough to see if this is worth it, so that's why I haven't put points into it. It might be worth it to do this and this be the build. So the Mobalytics site will update as I test this more. This is just the initial foray into it, but you will have plenty of fun with this build once you hit level, you have plenty of fun once you get these two unlocked. But level 17 and 18 really let this bad boy pop off. So let's talk about the rotation before closing the video out. Okay, now it's time for the quote unquote rotation. It's weird to say that, but here's the rotation of this build. Like I said before, we are hinging ourselves off of the way the interaction between Crucible and Double Edge works. Double Edge will detonate things for us, right? And Crucible primes things for us. Let's look at that last block right there. Enemies damaged by Forge Axes are primed for a duration and will detonate when they die, or are damaged by a Forge skill, dealing damage to nearby enemies. So that's what we're going to hinge ourselves off of. What we're going to do, we're going to theoretically, right? I'll show. We've seen the gameplay, but the theoretical approach to this would be, we would go ahead and press our Crucible, throw whatever one is appropriate to the element, hold down, launch this, and then throw a grenade. Now you can see we have a sword, an axe, or two axes, and a hammer. Now some things to consider here. You'll see on the left next to my health bar, those are the duration of each one of our summons. Let them all fall off so I can explain another part of the rotation that you should be understanding. When it comes to summoning these things, you can totally whiff and still summon something. So let's go ahead and just do the rotation again really quick. So we'll press F, launch this, launch that, and then launch this. Oops, I press it twice. So look at the duration dropping down. I'm just going to tap F. We didn't even need to actually press F and throw it again. I can just tap it and put it back in my pocket, and it stays up. I can press G, and that's going to just go ahead and summon that thing again. You don't actually have to hit. You just need to press the actual button, and it will go ahead and do it for you. So don't think that you have to hit with these things. All you need to do is actively do the thing that summons it, and then it will come back alive or stay alive, whatever it is. So you see the duration's going down, it's going down, way back up. All I did was just press F and put it back in my pocket. But that's how the rotation of this works. It's just going to come down to you selecting, you making sure that you're just keeping these things up the whole entire time. Like even this section, we've kept these things up by just making sure that we're tapping F really quick. Or we can throw a Big Daddy, and that completely restores them, remember, right? So throwing in that Forge skill, the Twin Blade, is what brings them back to full entirely. Just tapping F gives them just a little bit more. So this is how that rotation works. Make sure you're using it to maximize the damage of this build. And just a real quick note here on gear. This build is not gear dependent. So have fun, build whatever you want. You can even see, despite what I said in the beginning, I'm not even using a corrosive weapon and I've been fine. But make sure you try to have a corrosive weapon on so you can deal with any of the armor that you're going to be dealing with in this game. Having a corrosive weapon is just going to give you that little bit of extra oomph through it, but you do have quite a bit of burst that you can push through those things, so don't worry about it too much. Another note though too is your ordnance. So remember, your ordnance is a summoning item for you, right? So you can use stuff like the big boy guns here that have a 58-second recycle. Just know though that if you're not taking specifically this skill, Cacophony, it's, oh, I'm sorry, not Cacophony, sorry, Endless Bombardment, it's going to be hard to keep those ordinances off of recycle because we're not taking anything that would otherwise do that. I think think the ordnance recycle one, I can't remember where it is. There is an ordnance cooldown ability, and I don't remember where it is. Maybe it's not in this, and I just blending together all the different damn classes I've been looking at all past couple days. Either way, I stick to grenades because they have such a small cooldown and they usually have multiple charges. So this allows me to kind of make sure I always have a hammer up. But I've also played around with rocket launchers and been just fine. So you can see this one only has a 25-second recycle. That's not bad at all. You can keep your hammer up using your action skill and your forge skill long enough to get this bad boy online again too. So don't even worry about that. Also too, another thing is a class mod. Just choose whatever class mod you find that in the game that you land on that's going to do anything for Forgedrones, action skill, forge skill, ordnance damage. Those are your 4 keywords to really know. And of course, elemental damage types for sure. And as with all these mods, you want to make sure too that these are skill bonuses that are actually going to help out what you're doing, right? Discombobulate, and I think those are both in, yeah, these are both in Onslaughter. So I won't get any benefit of these per se because I'm not building into them. But just make sure you're pulling in those benefits as best you can. Ordnance damage. I thought I could have sworn there was an ordnance recycle here in the blue. Here, it's this one. Nope. It's this one. Yeah. Amon restores a percentage of ordnance cooling. Since we're not taking machinist in this build, you want to make sure you have your ordnance up as much as possible. But at that, it brings our video here to a close. So this build I think is really great for leveling, but I don't think that this build falls off damage wise like I was really dreading. It's really fun. It's very active. It's not as tanky as the other build that you would use Scourge, and it's not as active. Not as melee focused as Onslaughter. But I find that being able to be at range, constantly throwing swords at my enemies and constantly having a ton of fun slicing and dicing through things has been one of the best boons of this build. I didn't think I'd be playing a build like this where I was reliably using summons, but I like that the summons are not necessarily the full focus of the build in the sense that I'm using passives that are solely summon bonuses. Like if I'm playing a Vex, I'm using passives that make it so the ordnance slot is super destructive. So I like that is a present thing, and making sure that my what's it called, my class mod is giving me bonuses to the things that I'm doing, like an action skill, my forge skill, my Forgedrones, anything like that is going to really help out this build and keep that scaling positive throughout the entirety of your leveling experience and in the end game. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Are you going to play this minion build with Amon? Are you going to try a different variation of this? Are you going to take certain portion of this and swap around? Or have you done a similar build and done different things? Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. As always, want to make sure there's as much information disseminated out to the people as possible. But thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.